49. The animal soul and spirits' influence on it. 13th March 1847. How the spirits of the mineral and plant kingdoms arrange the specifical intelligences into one being, and how they connect the sidereal and telluric ones, we have already dealt with sufficiently. The only thing that remains for us to observe is the transition, or actually the becoming of the animal from the former realm, and to observe what all the spirits have to observe and do here themselves. In every animal, there is already a more or less developed soul, which works in its body, which is still a coarse matter, through the so-called nerve spirit that surrounds it at all times. And in this, the animal kingdom differs from the plant kingdom, and even more from the mineral kingdom. That the animal already has a free psyche, while in the plant kingdom, and especially in the mineral kingdom, this is still interwoven with matter and divided, such as the spirit of wine in the grape, since someone can also consume very many grapes and not become intoxicated, while the spirit from 20 grapes would be enough to intoxicate 10 people. One understands here by itself large, good and ripe grapes. Where does this spirit reside in the grape, this fiery spiritual ether? In the grape, it is still very divided and cannot have any effect. Since in each grape juice berry, among 1,000 specific substances, such an ethereal specific is also mixed in. But if this single specific is pulled out of the many other specifics by a special apparatus known to you, and collected in a vessel, only then it expresses its power. So it is also the case with the animal soul. It is an aggregate of a quantity of ethereal substantial specifics, which already form an intelligent constant being, insofar as they have united to this very being. When the act of procreation occurs in animals, the spirits drive these psychic animal beings by their will into the material procreative organs of the animals, and enclose them at the moment of procreation with a material membrane. In this membrane, this psyche then becomes active and begins to order itself according to the completeness of its intelligence. When the soul or the psyche has made the certain arrangements in this first dwelling and in itself, the spirits then see to it that this psyche receives the appropriate nourishment from the mother's womb, through new organs specially formed for this purpose, and with it, the building material for its future body, which it has to inhabit and through which it has to work. This body is formed by the soul itself, but of course under the continuous guidance of the spirits, which of course do not have to give a hand, but only their will to the work. However, the formation of the body proceeds in this way. The etheric substantial psyche first organized its intelligences, or rather these intelligences organized themselves, according to the laws of assimilation dwelling in them. Since black unites with black, white with white, red with red, green with green, blue with blue, hard with hard, soft with soft, tough with tough, sweet with sweet, bitter with bitter, sour with sour, and light with light, and so on. But since every such etheric and now already substantial intelligence specificum carries a perfect idea in itself, which idea plasticizes itself in a certain form, this property of the soul passes in the period of formation of the body to the body, and the body is then, at its full formation, nothing but the typical form of the complete soul, which was given into the womb of an animal at the moment of conception. Once the form in the mother's womb is fully developed, and the soul, after its formation, has in a certain way reshaped itself in the form of the body, then it has a rest for a certain time. And the body then continues to form itself through the nourishment still taken in the mother's womb, of course by supporting the soul insofar as it only then begins its new activity in the main viscera. This is when the pulse begins to beat and the juices begin to circulate in the new body. The new food is already absorbed into the stomach, with which it begins its digestive business. During this time, the so-called fetus comes to life in the womb. Then, when the body is completely regulated by this operation, all organs have opened, pulse and digestion have entered the regular course, and the nerves have been saturated. When the spirits have formed a nerve spirit in them that is most closely related to the soul through its own electromagnetic process of fermentation, then the spirits again enter with their will, loosen the bonds between the fetus and the womb, and then drive the new being out of the womb. And that is the birth. After birth, the newborn animal must be nourished for a short time from the mother's womb, as, for example, in mammals with milk. In poultry, by the supersliming of nutrients with which the parents feed the young in the nests. With the water amphibians likewise with a mucus, which these release in the water as a unique kind of milk, and with the amphibians on land with a juice, which the old ones let flow out either from their warts or even also from their throat. With this food, the body is further developed so that it can then seek, find, and consume the food intended for it. From the moment when the body finds its nourishment freely and enjoys it, the psyche dwelling in it begins, according to the guidance of the spirits, to invert the material specifics of the body into substantial ones, and in this way forms itself through the life of its body into a richer and thus also more perfect psyche, which, when it has reached the highest possible formation in a body, then gradually disregards it more and more. Through this neglect, the body weakens more and more, until it becomes completely annoying to the soul and unfit for further work, which causes pain to the soul through the nerve spirit, but which pain then contributes to the fact that the soul finally gets rid of such a burden completely. Then the body falls as if dead and motionless, but the soul becomes free again, and is caught by the spirits again, and forced to the procreation of a higher animal stage, where it then becomes active in quite the same way as it has now been described, only more complicated. But the specifica of the discarded body must be dissolved again. because they have not yet been put together in a certain, but in a necessary order by the soul. Through the repeated dissolution, however, they are then placed in a more definite order, and form the female psyche in the course of the advancing animal stages, while the free psyche proper, which we have now dealt with, is the male one. And thus Eve comes forth everywhere from the ribs of man. Of course, one could ask here, what then happens to the specifics of discarded female bodies? They are united with the males. By this unification, they are then only in a next stage able to form in themselves female and male. For the fact that male and female come out of one and the same womb hardly needs to be mentioned, since certainly each of you has already brought it so far in zoognosy. But if the mother did not unite female and male specifica in her body at the same time, from where would she nourish the female and from where the male? I think this thing is already so clear that it would be a formal empty-mouth waffling to say more about it, and ridiculous and boring beyond measure. I would like to show you everything by words, how the feathers of the bird grow, the bristles of the sow, the horns of the ox, and the long ears of the donkey. For all this lies in the order of the soul, how it orders its intelligences in the aforementioned way, according to the laws of assimilation. Since we have now seen the work of the spirits in this realm clearly enough, even if only through a few hints, we will next visit the transition into man, and then soon look around a little deeper in the earth. That is, the spiritual earth.